All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gunnar Grosch. I'm a developer advocate with AWS. Super happy to be back here in Mountain View with this community today. So today, I want to talk about securing your software development lifecycle with a combination of different tools that we have at AWS. So we'll look at Amazon Q Developer, of course, Inspector, Code Guru, and some other things to see how we can bring AI into detecting and fixing things as we develop our software, but also how we can use that when we're deploying and operating things in production. So really looking at how we can improve our security posture across the software development lifecycle. And this is what we'll be going through. A bunch of things in 25 minutes. We're going to level set everyone on the software development lifecycle to begin with, and look at how we can add security into that. Then a bit about Q Developer, as I mentioned, with a bit of an overview and some of the pretty cool things from a security perspective that we can look at. Look at some code security scanning, both within the IDE and outside of the IDE. And as we move code from development and into our CI systems, and then finally into production. And finally, I want to talk about maintaining secure code with Inspector after deployment actually has happened. So let's start with the software development lifecycle. There are various ways that our customers put together pipelines to move code into production. First, we need to ideate on that code, figure out exactly what we want to do. We will need to write the code, put it into source control of some sort. Then we have our pipelines that measure, inspect, test, and finally put things into production. And this all starts with the human element, you, the developer out there, planning how we're going to approach whatever problem we want to try to solve with code. And as we think about security, we want to shift left as much as possible. We want to think about our software requirements with a security-first mindset. And as we do the actual design, the architecture, and development, we want to keep security top of mind all the time. So with that, we can then start adding these different services that can help us with security. And this is kind of what we want to walk through in this session. How we can bring in tools like Inspector in different parts of our software delivery lifecycle, and how we can use Security Hub and also Q Developer, as I mentioned. So speaking of Q Developer then, why we talk so much about it and why we see it as so important for software development these days. Because I think in many ways, the traditional software development lifecycle, it has become a bit of a bottleneck, where developers spend a lot of time writing thousands and thousands of lines of code, debugging things, getting caught up in many quite repetitive tasks, like infrastructure configuration, code refactoring, and so on. And these manual processes is not only slow, but they're also error-prone. And they, in many ways, prevent developers from building the innovative, the complex, and problem-solving applications that they, as developers, envision to do. So while generative AI initially focused on helping developers just code things as an AI coding assistant or with inline completions while you're writing code, now with Amazon Q and similar type tools, we want to address more of these tasks across this development lifecycle, so that Amazon Q can then help you not only write code, but actually walk you through the entire lifecycle. Not only in the code creation, but actually once you start pushing things into your pipelines, through the pipelines and into production, and then also while operating the application. So many of the different features with Amazon Q Developer, they focus, of course, on creating things. But one of the pretty cool features that I don't think we talk enough about is how it can help you actually with security in your IDE. So when you have code in your IDE, you can start reviewing the code with the help of QDeveloper with a feature that is aptly named Review. This example is showing an application. It's Open Sudoku, an open source project that's available on GitLab, I believe. And in this case, we've then run a security review of the code using QDeveloper, and it's found something. We can then find the details of what that issue is, and we can ask it to help fix it for us. Instead of just showing a screenshot like this, I want to walk you through exactly how that works. So we are in my IDE using VS Code. QDeveloper is available for a bunch of different IDEs. I'm using VS Code. So we have the project open. And then I'm going to open up Q, my extension that I've installed, open up Q Chat, and I can open one of the agentic features, in this case, the review feature. And what Q is going to do then is ask me if I want to review the entire workspace, all the code, or one specific file. And now it's going to scan through my entire workspace. And it's going to do a review of me. Now it's completed, and we can see that we have some findings. In this case, it found 100 medium issues. So we can then start looking through these issues, see what they are. And let's pick one. Here we go. And this one says that it's about missing authentication. We can look at this specific finding, open up the details for it. And looking at these details, it gives us information about what is the security issue with this specific finding. If we want more information, we can tell Q to explain it further. And Q is then, with the help of generative AI, going to create a better explanation for us. And while it's doing that, it's also going to create a fix for the issue. So we get a bunch of information telling us exactly what the issue is with the code. And as you can see to the right, it's showing us how we can now fix this with these changes of the code and these additions to the code. And if I think this is OK, I can accept the fix. It's then going to make that change for me in my code, as we can see. So with the review feature, we can do a review and look at this as your, I guess, coding companion that's going to review the code that you've written or that someone else has written. And it's going to give you suggestions on how to fix it. And you can then either apply the fix straight away, or you can obviously make changes to the code yourself as well. So that's one way we can use QDeveloper as a developer. The other way is that we have a fairly new partnership with GitLab, where we have enabled QDeveloper within GitLab itself. So you can use it within your GitLab environment. And I'm going to show you how that works as well. So in this case, we have a new merge request in my repository within GitLab. So I'm going to create that merge request. There we go. Now, with that in place, I'm going to use QDeveloper within GitLab in this case. So I'm adding a comment, typing /q, and then you can see those same agentic features available for me. I'm going to use a review once again and make that comment. And that triggers QDeveloper within the GitLab environment. So it's going to work in a similar fashion, but on this specific pull request that we have. So now it's working, takes a couple of minutes. And once it's done, it's added comments from the Amazon Q service in this case, telling us that it's reviewed the changes, and it's found some sort of issue in this case. And here we go. It shows us what the issue is, that the SQL query is constructed using string concatenation, which can lead to performance issues and is vulnerable to SQL injection attacks. And that's not good. So now we can, once again, write a comment. And we're, once again, going to do /q. But now, instead, we're going to use the fix agent. So we're adding this comment, telling Q to now make a fix for that specific issue that it found in the review. And now, once again, takes a couple of minutes while Q is working on the issue and is now generating a code fix for the security vulnerability. And now we can see this suggested change. It's showing us that these are the lines of code that it wants to remove. And as you can see, it looks just like any Git diff. And it's then adding, this is the code that it wants to add instead. There we go, a different SQL query in this case that is then a more secure version of the query. And if that looks good to us, we can then apply this suggestion. Click apply. Of course, add a commit message. Press commit. And now that's applied. So now we've made that change with the help of QDeveloper within our GitLab environment for that specific pull request that we added. So this is a way that we can use QDeveloper either as a developer within our IDE to help us review and then fix issues with our code, or in the repo itself, in this case using GitLab, and then invoking Q both for reviews and for fixes. All right, so once we've moved now beyond creating and we've written code, we've done the reviews, we have things in our repo. So we've now transitioned away from using QDeveloper into other AWS tools. And Amazon Code Guru becomes the primary tool for us at this stage of this secure software development lifecycle. And Code Guru Security, it's a static application security tool, and it uses machine learning, AI, to detect security policy violations and different types of vulnerabilities. So it will provide us with suggestions for addressing these types of security risks, and it will then also help us generate metrics so we can track the security posture of our application. And Code Guru Security, it uses a bunch of different policies behind the scenes, and these are built using our own AWS and Amazon years and years and years of security best practices. Things that Paul was talking about this morning. It's basically him behind the scenes. Don't tell him that, though. All right, so where do we then add Code Guru into our secure software delivery lifecycle? Well, we can put it a bunch of different places. So we use Code Guru within QDeveloper. So even when we did that review, behind the scenes, Code Guru is actually being used. But we can also add it to our Git repository, to Inspector. We can use it with code build in our code pipeline. So Code Guru is used in a bunch of different places for us. So one way we can do it is when we invoke Code Guru Security on specific code that's within our repository or that we're storing in S3, we can then view the findings from that within the Code Guru dashboard. That's a place within the AWS console that then shows us the different findings. So this is an example of a finding where I don't think you can read that. It is hard-coded credentials in this specific one. It's providing us with an explanation of what it's actually finding, and then also telling us how we can address this issue within whatever IDE or editor we want to use. But we can also, as I said, we can put it into our pipelines. So we can use Code Guru Security within the pipeline itself. And in this case, we can add a way for us to actually block deployment of code that isn't secure. So this is using GitLab CI. And we have then added that when we push this and it finds a critical severity finding, it will then stop the deployment at that point. So while it's going through the pipeline, Code Guru will check whatever it is we're trying to push. So this lets us implement these types of controls while we are pushing things through the pipeline. And it can be at any specific stage that you want to have it at. All right, so now we've actually pushed things through. We've let our developers use QDeveloper while we're writing code. We've used QDeveloper in GitLab. And now we want to actually use things within production. And that's where Amazon Inspector comes in. So we've secured everything up to the point of deployment. But that is really just the beginning, because it's while things are in production that we need to really make sure that whatever we're running is secure and that it's free of vulnerabilities. And Inspector, it continuously monitors your software across different accounts, organizations, and it's continuously looking for new vulnerabilities that might emerge days, weeks, or months after deployment. And Inspector, it's available for EC2, for AWS Lambda, and for Amazon ECR, the repository for your container images. And one of the powerful features Inspector offers is the ability to generate a software bill of materials, SBOM. And this allows us to track the dependencies across different workloads, different accounts. And once we've enabled Inspector, we can then request these SBOM generations for our entire organization, or for specific accounts, or even for individual resources, like a single AWS Lambda function. And this is generated in the very specific formats that's used for software bills of materials, CycloneDX or SPDX. And it's going to include all different dependencies you have, your OS packages, your software packages. So if you're running Java, for instance, it will list all your jar files within the project, or if you're using JavaScript, it's going to go through your package JSON and list all of that. And this is then going to be stored within an S3 bucket for you, where you can then do further analysis on these. And we can add this as this integration within our CI/CD pipeline as well. In this case, we're adding it in a GitHub workflow, and it's going to generate this software bill of material for us. So it's going to use an AWS-provided action to configure the credentials, assume a role, and it will then run the Inspector scan using the vulnerability scan GitHub action for Amazon Inspector that's available. So it will scan the code, generate the software bill of material. It makes it available to other steps within the job. And it then creates this scan result for us towards the end. And once again, we can then see the vulnerability count by severity from critical down to the low vulnerabilities. We can also use it, like I said, for Amazon EC2, where it continuously monitors your EC2 instances for software vulnerabilities without you having to actually install any type of agent or additional software. So you can enable it either in the hybrid mode, that's a new one, where you have a bit more flexibility around how it's used, or the agent-based scan mode, that is the one that has been used throughout the years. And it uses a snapshot on the EBS volumes, and it scans those snapshots to be able to find these vulnerabilities. You can also use it, like I mentioned, for ECR, the container registry. And that allows you to either do basic scanning, that's included with ECR, and you can then use the open source Claire one or the AWS native scanning, and you can scan on an OS level, and you can do it manually, or you can scan on push when you're pushing to the repository. And you can also do the enhanced scanning, that is integrated with Amazon Inspector, and that can be scanned on an OS or a program language level. And like I mentioned, it has support for AWS Lambda as well, where you can scan vulnerabilities within your AWS Lambda functions. It allows you to do the standard scanning, that is finding package vulnerabilities, for instance, your Python packages. But you can also do scanning of the code that is going to look for vulnerabilities within your application code, that you have written. And Inspector integrates seamlessly with Security Hub as well. So if you have enabled security within your organization, it is automatically going to start finding things within your organization. So in this case, we have a bunch of findings from Inspector for high, I think, 3 medium. And these are in different accounts. I blanked out that column, but this is across the organization in this case. And once again, it allows you to then deep dive and look at the specific findings for each of these. And then we also see the software delivery lifecycle come full circle with generative AI-powered recommendations from Inspector. So when it finds, for instance, a hard-coded secret in your Python code in this case, it's going to propose a change to use an environment variable instead of having it hard-coded. So this creates this feedback loop for you, where operational findings are then leading to code improvements. So you improve the code while you're running code. So then, to summarize a bit of what we covered, we want to secure the software delivery lifecycle far left as possible on the developer's workstation, the actual developer writing the code. And that could be using QDeveloper to provide this early feedback on the code that you've written. And then we scan the code after it leaves the developer's laptop using tools like CodeGuru or Amazon Inspector within the CI/CD pipelines, whether that's using GitLab or GitHub or AWS code pipeline. And then we continuously scan the software after deployment. Since the software delivery lifecycle, it doesn't end at deployment. That's only the beginning. So Inspector then helps us to provide visibility into vulnerabilities, and it offers recommendations for mitigation to different types, through different types of code changes for us as well. If you want to continue your AWS learning, and I think you do, you should all have an AWS Builder ID. How many here has an AWS Builder ID? Not enough people. So scan the QR code, sign up for an AWS Builder ID, gives you access to a bunch of free training, get access to community.aws to both create and comment on articles, and fun thing, you can use QDeveloper for free using Builder ID. And if you're not using QDeveloper in your IDE, I suggest you try it out. And if you've tried it in the past, I suggest you try the new versions. We're continuously improving on QDeveloper, so I think you should give it a try. I have one more QR code for you. And that is, on Wednesday next week, we are running an AWS Dev Day at the Gen AI Loft on Market Street. Full day of serverless and generative AI learning, where we're going to walk you through how to build generative AI applications using serverless technology. That is going to be a very fun event. It's free, of course, so please sign up and join us. And with that, I want to thank you for your attention today. Hopefully giving you some valuable insights into how you can secure your software development lifecycle using different types of AWS tools. If you like to connect with me on social media, I'm on most of them with Gunnar Grosch as username. You can also scan the QR code to find it all there, easily clickable. With that, thank you all very much. Sorry? Oh, yeah. We have 50 seconds for questions. So yes or no questions only. Any questions? I'll be around otherwise, so feel free to just approach me. No. Thank you.
Sorry, hello?
Yes. That's not a yes or no question. I would say that security is the most important thing that we do as software developers. And to make things secure, we should use the security tools that are available for us from the time that we start creating the code up until we get the code out to your apps in your phones. Something like that.